Hey guys, Celeste here, and today I will be talking about the case of Angela Hammond. I first heard about this case watching Unsolved Mysteries way back in the day, and this was a case that really stuck with me for years. And honestly, I feel like learning about it was one of the things that made a formative impact on shaping parts of my personality. Like I remember watching it just being fascinated and terrified by this retelling of it. And I feel like it really contributed to how uncomfortable unsolved cases make me and how terrified I was to be killed and never found. I was just, there's so much that I could go into here, but I won't. There's a few details of the case I always remembered that later helped me Google it and track it down. Like years later, I was like, okay, I got to find out what this was about. I remembered a few things, put a name and a face, the details I remembered, and I searched for everything I could find about the case, and I came up with very little in the way of details. But I'll share what I have with you. Angela Marie Hammond was born on February 9th, 1971, and lived in the town of Clinton, Missouri. Clinton's a fairly small town in Missouri. In 2010, the population came in at just under 10,000 people, and there were probably a lot fewer in 1991 when this case took place. A little more about Angela. At the time of her disappearance, she was just 20 years old, only 4 feet 11 inches tall, and even more tragically, she was 4 months pregnant. She was a college student and also worked as a bank teller, and she was engaged to a man named Rob Schaefer. On April 4th, 1991, Angela had dropped Rob off at home after going to a barbecue and then went to hang out with a friend for a while. She ended up calling Rob again around 11:15 that night from a payphone that was about 7 blocks from his house. While she was talking to him, she noticed that a green Ford truck was circling suspiciously around her a couple times and eventually pulled up by her. A man got out and tried to use the other phone that was there, then walked around his car a few times, shining a flashlight around it. Angela must have been kind of freaked out by this because she described the car and the man to Rob. She offered to let the stranger use the phone, and he said he would try the other one in a few minutes. This is where it gets really scary. A few minutes later, Rob heard Angela scream, and the man said, "I didn't need to use the phone anyway." Rob dropped his phone and ran out to his car to rush to the payphone and try to help her. On the way, he passed the truck going in the opposite direction, and miraculously, he was alerted by Angela yelling to him from the truck. He immediately put his car into reverse and turned around to follow the truck. But unfortunately, he did this in such a hurry that he ended up damaging his transmission on a sharp turn. He was able to follow the truck for 2 miles before his transmission failed and he lost track of the truck. It also seemed that he and Angela did not take note of the license plate number, or there was no visible license plate because I couldn't find any information on that. At that point, Rob went to the police and a massive search began for Angela. Hundreds of trucks matching the description were investigated, but there were no leads. Because the whole story seemed kind of fantastical, Rob was initially a suspect as well. He was questioned but passed a polygraph test, which I don't really trust polygraphs anyway. They're not admissible in court. A lot of things can impact the results, but they can be one thing that gives you some information about a case. So I'm not opposed to their use. I just don't always trust the results. 2 other witnesses then came forward and reported seeing a strange man and the truck near the phone booth shortly before the time that Angela was abducted. Angela was possibly linked to 2 other suspicious kidnappings or disappearances in the area at the time that happened around that time. One of the women had told her son that a suspicious man was lurking outside when he came, and when he came there, she was missing. Her body was eventually found. The other woman was a convenience store worker who vanished after locking up the store for the night. It was believed that she was kidnapped as her car was still in the parking lot of the store. Both of these disappearances happened within a 100-mile radius from where Angela was kidnapped, and Angela's kidnapping took place a month after the second woman vanished. According to Rob and the other witnesses, the person who abducted Angela was described as Caucasian, very dirty, with glasses, beard, and mustache. He was wearing overalls and was driving a late 60s to early 70s model 2-tone green Ford pickup truck with the mural of fish jumping out of the water on the back window. Serial killer Kenneth McDuff has been looked at as a possible suspect as well, but he was never officially linked to this case. At this time, the case is still unsolved, and it has been more than 30 years since Angela was kidnapped. At the 30th anniversary of her disappearance, police announced that they were investigating another possible lead in the case. They came in the form of a ransom note and an anonymous informant who suggested that Angela was mistaken for the daughter of a narcotics informant who was also named Angela and had striking similarities to her. The note was postdated the same day that Angela was taken. However, there has been no news since then, so I'm not sure if this is actively being investigated anymore. Here's a photo of Angela, as well as an age progression photo of what she would look like at the age of 43. At the time I'm recording this, no trace of Angela has ever been found. There is still a reward out for leads in the case. I'm sure someone out there does know what happened to her. So if you have any possible information, please contact the Clinton, Missouri Police Department. Like I said, this case really had a strong impact on me and stayed with me. And it's one that I really hope can eventually be solved and bring some answers to her family.